Alright, drafts physics video, just the little bit of intro part anyway. I've been playing with magnets and, oh, yeah, alright, it broke. I have to tip that over again. Yes. I wanted to get to the dampening effect. I mean, I have a magnet pretty far away. And, if I can disturb its magnetic field, it has to dampen. The magnet will wobble for quite a while. And it's really not doing it very well. I think the camera's creating another magnetic field that's stronger than the other fields, and therefore it's dampening my experiment. But anyway, the idea is that this magnet is suspended on its edge because there's another big magnet over there, and another little magnet over there. And the more complex the arrangement you create, you can see the time it takes is different because of the difference in the distances between the magnetic fields that keep changing as one field is changed. And drop that quickly. Yeah, it's a little better. But you can just see, I mean, that's 10 inches away at least, maybe a foot away, and it's creating that much effect on these little magnets. So their distance here is half the distance to this big magnet. And see, this one just fell over just from the camera's movement. It disturbed the magnetic field enough. And this one's now on edge. Instead of being on its corner, it's standing up straight, so I should be able to mess with it more dramatically in some respects. Yeah, I can definitely throw it back on its edge. It's from 10 inches away just by moving a small magnet in the field. So that's how strong the field is even at that distance. But anyway, the real point is that from their perspective, twice the distance is twice the time it takes for change to be recognized, and that's a significant change in terms of the information having to, one disturbance gets bounced around to all the fields, and then all the fields have to agree on the strength of the disturbance. But if one part of the field is communicating twice as fast as the other part, that obviously won't be even. So anyway, it's interesting anyway. I think it's interesting. I have to do more of this playing with magnets thing. But this is happening right. This effect I'm doing actually through the camera. I mean, the magnetic field has to go through the camera to change the position of this magnet. Anyway, very interesting, I think. So anyway, the rest of the video.
Yeah, hopefully I'll tie these videos together. We'll keep this short because, if the file size gets too big, then it's a pain in the ass tying them together and all that crap. So anyway, so this was the little experiment you saw. Just little tiny magnets and just little changes in the field, and it keeps wobbling. Yeah. So I was thinking, the more of those you could put together, the more you could have that effect, where the energy will just keep migrating through. Because there's no friction to it. It's no loss less. But that's the trick with this energy thing, is that it's forever. Yeah. And it's just the losses. It's just the fact that we live in a world full of this friction, this connection, that causes this dampening effect, where whatever happens has to dampen down eventually into nothing. Because of the losses, because it dissipates into the universe through some mechanism. It leaves again, doesn't stay. The change, the imbalance, and again the key word. So anyway, I haven't made a whole lot of progress in what I have to do. A lot of little distractions here and there. Some evasion on my part. I just don't want to have to keep fighting with it. Keep trying to figure out how to say something this pretty simple statement about reality. And it's just so logical. It just fits so well. And the resistance is so obnoxious. And you're just saying, well, how do you overcome that? I mean, can you argue the science, or do you have to really first argue the psychology of devotions, tradition, and getting people to do that out-of-the-box thinking thing? Like, somehow you have to make that kind of argument to scientists, which is kind of ironic. Or people, I haven't had a real shot at scientists yet. I've only had a shot at the pseudo intellectual types who think they know something. And it's the same in all fields, in a sense that a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. People are so attached, devoted to stuff that just isn't hasn't earned their devotion. They're quick to judge. They're really bad jurors of reality. I could argue that I was too in my youth. You'd get some notion in your head, and that's the way the world was. And yeah, until somebody showed me something real, hard evidence, I wasn't going to budge from my presumption of validity. That was a really good one. I missed it. Anyway, but it's mainly, the distance. I mean, this little magnet here is way over here, and it's affecting that magnet way over there. Just surprises me, that once you put it in once it's caught in a field, and it's on its edge, just the tiniest change, tiny vibrations. I tap the floor and this thing vibrates, wobbles quite distinctly. Anyway, I mean, it's kind of an interferometer. A pherometer, anyway. No, it's an inter. Yeah, no pherometer involved. But it is photons involved. So anyway, the whole energy argument here. So physicists are supposed to know something about energy, and it just seems like this should be a very easy argument to make. That here we have huge parts of the sources of energy, the movement of things, planets crashing into suns, that kind of thing. Well, they don't really crash, right? They orbit, but stuff getting pushed and pulled around in gravity, and they don't have an explanation. And then they have nothing for this magnetism thing. They'll just give you absolutely zero. And here I'm giving you a perfectly rational explanation that if you understand there to be field energy, all you got to do then is figure that there's a sensitivity and an insensitivity to that energy, to that movement, polarization, and then you can explain magnetism. And but just thinking about the universe itself and just thinking about space, physicists or intellectual types should be able to get the idea that if I was an electron orbiting something and the something was moving, that something has to be moving me in that extra direction. I'm just doing my thing. I'm doing my little local thing. And if I'm going to move somewhere else, something has to be doing that. And this whole idea of some locking force that doesn't have any identity. Some way that though the sun moves and therefore I move. Yeah, but there has to be something, some kind of energy that makes that happen. And it's that lack of recognition that the energy, you just can't keep saying, we'll account for that later. Or pull it out of, some notion of space-time or something. We'll just say it is this infinite source of energy. It's not a source. It's not a cognizable. It's not. You can't think it into making sense as energy. You just end up with some sort of, well, it just makes things happen. And that's, smart people should ask for a little more than it just makes things happen. So anyway, that sort of made me think differently about my approach. I mean, some people found my hostility towards current science obnoxious, but maybe it has to get even more obnoxious in terms of challenging the whole regime, the whole just because you see the hostility. to what is an idea, an explanation, that they really haven't in any way said how that can't be right, and no evidence of how it can be wrong, and yet all this hostility. Where does that come from? I mean, part of it is that, yeah, you do have these truthers out there, who bend and distort facts or data to demonstrate that somehow there was somebody in the bushes that shot Kennedy, and it was the CIA who did it, and and then the whole 9/11 truth or bullshit, and all the really horrible science involved in that. And so maybe that makes science defensive because there's so many people cheating. But there's no evidence that I'm cheating anything here. There's no evidence of any distortions or perversions or, bending or twisting of evidence or data. So I just don't see that argument as valid. I don't see that as an excuse to reject all challenges to your existing notions. And like the idea of an ether making things happen is sensible. And then the only thing that's insensible about it is that it creates these friction problems. But then if you make, and it also doesn't account for the source of the energy still, but all you do is make it an active ether. You make the ether the photons. You make the ether the stuff doing the orbiting. You make the ether into the bits that seem to have all the activity, the nuclear bits. You think of an atomic bomb and you say, what really is that? And it's really what's all around us right now. It's the density of the energy that's around us all right now. And it's just demonstrated that when it's imbalanced, when you imbalance that field, that's how dense the field is. That's how you can see its density in a nuclear bomb. That's how you see the density of the ether. That's how thick the field of moving bits we're in is. Because those bits in that nuclear bomb aren't from somewhere else. They're not from some other dimension. They're there all the time, and you only see them when they're moving the wrong way, when they're out of balance. Alright, that's probably enough for this video. Keep it short and simple, but yeah, something soon. I just, I gotta do the writing thing. I don't want to do it. I gotta, I'm just gonna. I don't have anybody to argue with, so there's just not much to do until I do it. I have to initiate this, and it's just kind of irritating that you just can't say Eureka, and the challenges come. But no, it doesn't work that way. Somehow I have to really push it, and it's just sort of irritating. Because if this was a different time, I wouldn't have to do any of that. Wouldn't be that complicated, because there would be you were competing with other ideas that were just as wacky, so to speak. It's just that people have grown into these. I mean, the idea of space-time. I mean, if I could have challenged space-time in its origin, it'd be so much easier than trying to defeat it now that everybody has sort of had sex with it or something. I don't know. So they've made it into one of their kids, and so now you can't offend it. You can't challenge it. So anyway, enough. Until next time. I'm still working on it. I'm just distracted.